In the last section, we played around with React Router a little bit and got more familiar with the browser router and route components. Remember, the route components provide some amount of configuration to React Router. They tie a component that we create to a particular route or a path that a user might visit inside of our application. In our particular case, we created the path hello and said whenever a user goes there, I want to show the hello component on the screen. And then we did the exact same thing for a path of goodbye and the goodbye component as well. One thing that I want to point out to you, I just want to mention this to be 100% clear, the name of the path that we create does not have to match the component name as well. So we don't have to take the component name and just make it lowercase and use it as a path right here. We could have just as easily said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or hello route, or ABCD. Absolutely anything we could possibly imagine. So there's really no tie whatsoever between the component name and the path name that we choose. Now that we've had a chance to play around with the route component a little bit, let's figure out how we're going to use React Router inside of our particular application. So I want to think about the different routes that our application might need. So let's take a look at a diagram. It's going to help us figure out what we're going to do here. Okay, so here's the first page, the page where a user is going to see a list of all their different blog posts appear on the screen. So we had said that this was going to be the root route or the home route of our application. So presumably if a user goes to, say, myblog.com, this would be the page that they first see appear on the screen. So do notice that when you go to myblog.com, that's really interpreted as a route that has only the character / inside of it. And so when we previously had on here just / by itself, that's really meant to indicate this is the home route or the root route of our application. Now we can easily imagine that to make a component like this that shows a list of posts, we might make a component called something like posts index or post list or something like that, right? I can imagine making a React component like that would be in charge of showing the list of posts on the screen to the user. So if we imagine that we have a component called like posts index or post list, and we want to match that or show that to the user whenever the user goes to the route just /, we might end up with a route component that looks a little something like this. So we might place a route component that has a path of just / by itself, and then a component called something like posts index. And that will be responsible for fetching a list of posts and showing them all to the user. So I think that this will very likely be one route that we add inside of our application. Maybe the first route or the first route that we show to the user when they visit our page. Let's now check out the other two pages and think about the different route components that we'll create for those. So I'm going to scroll on over a little bit. Okay, so next is the route or the component, I should say, that we show to a user when they are attempting to look at details about a very particular post. So for this one, we had said that we might have a URL or a path of something like posts /5, where 5 was the ID of the post that the user was attempting to look at. Now this one is a little bit more challenging because we are clearly saying that there's kind of a wildcard inside this route right here, right? We don't want to have to create like 10,000 different route components inside of our application and say, make one route for post /1 and post /2 and post /3, post /4 and so on. Really, we want to just put together one single post definition or route definition and say that this part of the URL right here is really a variable or kind of a wildcard. So if we ever see the user trying to access a route that looks something like post / anything at all, then I want to show this component on the screen. And so of course React Router does have support for this. So let's kind of think about what type of route configuration we might set up. Maybe it looks something like this. We might make a route component that has a path of posts / and then we added in a little wildcard right here. So the wildcard is :ID. By putting in :ID, or specifically just the colon, that tells React Router to be kind of a fuzzy match or kind of a wildcard. So if a user tries to go to post /1 or post /2, 3, 4, whatever it might be, React Router is going to consider that /1 or /2 to be a wildcard, and it's going to try to greedily match that route against this component right here. So if a user ever goes to a route like that, we'll show them a component that we're going to call maybe something like post show. I think that makes sense. Post show as a component to be responsible for fetching a very particular component and showing, or excuse me, a very particular post and showing it on the screen. Now let's think about the very last route that we have. So the last route is all about showing a component to the user that they can use to create a brand new post. And so for this, we had previously said that we might have a route of something like post/new. And so this is another somewhat easy one. We can kind of think of a route that looks a little something like this. So we'll make our route component, and we'll say whenever the user attempts to visit the path post/new, let's show this post/new component to the user on the screen. Okay, so in this section, we've spoken about the 3 different routes that I think that we're going to need inside of our application. We're going to have a route for post/new, a route for post/wildcard, and then just slash by itself, which is serving the root route of our application. Now that we've got a better idea of the general architecture and structure of our router inside of our application, let's dive back into the implementation in the next section.